What is going on, Minties? The Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition. And today's Reviews in a Flash is brought to you by Darkstar916. So thank you very much, Darkstar. I'm going to be talking about Mike Carey and Peter Gross's, may not be gross, The Highest House. This book was published by IDW. It came out late last year. It collects the first 6 issues of this ongoing series. At least I'm led to believe it's ongoing. I don't know. Correct me in the comments down below if it's on hiatus or what. It retails for $24.99. It's oversized like this. It's in soft cover. And this is the same team that did the Unwritten series. So if you're a fan of that, you should check this out. This is a series I fell asleep on. I wasn't aware of it, and sleep on, that is kind of funny. Okay, so before I talk about that, though, I do need to talk about what the premise of the book is. So really quick, in this fictional country called Alsaniul, we encounter a magister, and he's coming into one of the little towns, and he wants to buy some slaves. And one of these slaves he takes an interest in, his name is Moth. M-O-T-H, like the things that are drawn to light. So Moth is a little boy. He's there with his sister who is going blind, and his mother sells him to this magister who wants to take him back to the highest house. That's kind of like a fortress where the king lives. So she sells him. They're off. They get attacked by bandits, and you can kind of see some magical aspects of the book take place then. Not with Moth, but with the magister and what he does with the bandits. So they make it to the house, and over there he's put with the cleaning quarters and then the roofing house, and he makes friends while he's there. He's a very shy boy. And then he encounters this being. That's all I'm going to say. He hears a voice, and he calls it Obsidian later on, and they form a bond. Now, Obsidian has his or her own agenda. I don't want to give away what it really is. But so does Moth. Moth wants to go back and be with his sister and his family, and his mom, but he's mainly concerned about his sister. But Obsidian has other plans, so they make a pact. And because I think you get kind of the feeling that Obsidian wants to use Moth as a vessel. But let's look at the artwork, and then I can talk about what my issues with this book were. I really like this cover. For some reason, it reminded me of Nirvana's CD cover. I like the way that they try to make the paper look old, aged. And I will say the internal artwork is not done by the same person that did the cover. The cover was done by Yuko Shimizu. And the internal artwork is done, like I said, by Peter Gross. And color is, because we have this use of these mute colors, is Fabian Alquier. I really, for the most part, enjoyed Peter's artwork. I think it's great. Like, his facial expressions are awesome. You can tell what the character's thinking just by looking at their faces. The architect behind like all the buildings and the settings are wonderful. I love the way he draws old people. I love the use of these mute colors that they give it almost like this old medieval feel to the book. And yeah, the facial expressions, the character designs, they're really great. The only bad thing I can say about his artwork is that during the fight sequences, I got lost. Mainly because his artwork gets to be a little confusing, which I guess is the way that you're supposed to feel during battle. But then some of the characters start looking alike, so I'm not sure exactly who was who. But that's about the only thing I can say. But I mean, just his landscapes are absolutely gorgeous. Everything seems well lit. There's very little use of shadows until it's like nighttime. But during the daytime, you can tell like the characters hardly have any shadows on their faces or on their bodies. And I find that pretty unique. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Scott Collins in the lack of shadows. But like I said, come nighttime, it's a completely different thing. It's almost Tim Sale-ish. Like, there's so much dark everywhere. But it's easy to follow until you get, like I said, to those fighting sequences. Now, towards the very end here, we have some of the writings of the librarian talking about slaves. And then the tale of the salt carrier, Va. And then we have the covers here. All 6 of them. And then we also have some of the variant covers here towards the back. Now that we've seen the artwork, let's talk a little bit about the story and what I thought. Because this is one of those books that I found it difficult to get through, but I also enjoyed. I don't know if that makes sense if any of you go through that. It is very, very slow paced. Mike Carey is very dialogue heavy, and it's ironic because I like to talk a lot, as some of you all know. But his dialogue, sometimes I would find myself just falling asleep. And I don't really do that. I usually stay up reading a book. If I'm intrigued and I want to know what happens, I will stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because I just can't sleep if I'm intrigued in the story. Whereas this, I slept on it. Like, it took me about a month to read the whole thing, in between other things that I was reading. So that's the down thing. But I was interested and invested enough in the characters that I wanted to know what happened next. Does he make it back to his sister? What is Obsidian going to do with Moth? And he's totally crushing on the little princess. Then there's a secret between the princess and someone else. The king seems to really like him, but does the king trust him? That's all these little things I was interested in. But then the world building is just so big that I found a lot of it kind of boring. So I don't know. I guess if that makes any sense, it was good enough for me to keep reading, and I want to know what happens in the second book, but it was a little difficult to get through. And now that you've seen the artwork, I guess I could give it my final score of a 3 out of 5. I think it deserves probably a higher grade from most people that are really, really enjoyed it more than I did. But for me, that's my grade. It's all subjective, right? Some of you all may have read this and like, man, what a damn fool. That book was phenomenal. That should have been a 5 out of 5. Or some of you are like, man, that book was shit. That was a 0 out of 5. But, that's the thing to keep in mind, right? It's all subjective. So, Uncanny Omar here, signing off. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Check us out on social media at NearMintCon. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find our logo on t-shirts at Redbubble. Thank you to our Patreons. Thank you very much. And if you want to join our Patreon, that is in the descriptions down below. Remember, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint.